The infrared glow from my monitor painted my Miami office in shades of blood red. On screen, a ghost story unfolded in a Biscayne Bay mansion. Isabella Vance, elegant and poised, crept toward the marital bed. My client, her husband Arthur, was a motionless shape under the silk sheets. In her hand, a syringe caught the faint light, the needle a tiny silver fang. She thought she was alone. She wasn't. My name is Leo Sterling. For 2 weeks, I'd been Arthur's invisible shadow, hired to catch a cheating wife. What I captured instead was much darker. I hit pause, freezing the image of her face, a mask of cold, murderous intent. The $10 million life insurance policy was her motive. My footage was her mistake. Arthur Vance had walked into my office 2 weeks ago, a titan of the shipping industry with the haunted eyes of a man losing his world. He was a bull of a man, self-made and tough, but when he spoke of his wife, his voice cracked. "She's distant," he'd said, shamefaced. "Find out who he is, Leo. The not knowing is killing me." He was expecting a lover, a secret bank account. He was prepared for heartbreak, not a homicide attempt. He saw Isabella as his masterpiece, a fragile, beautiful thing to be protected. I saw a predator in couture. In Miami's gilded cages, I'd met her type before, all charm on the surface, with ice water in their veins. She played the part of the doting wife to a man 20 years her senior flawlessly, her smile a fixture at every charity gala. But the woman on my screen wasn't the city's darling socialite. She was a monster. My phone vibrated against the desk, shattering the silence. The caller ID flashed. Arthur Vance. It was the call I was dreading, and the one my plan absolutely depended on. I let it ring twice before answering. "Arthur," I said, my voice as level as a morgue slab. "Leo. Thank God. Any news? Did you find him?" The static on the line couldn't hide the tremor in his voice. He was still chasing a phantom lover, a simple, clean wound compared to the truth. The not knowing was killing him, he'd said. The knowing would be so much worse. "I have everything I need, Arthur," I told him, my eyes locked on the screen. "It's conclusive, but listen to me very carefully. Do exactly as I say. Don't go home tonight. Tell Isabella a shipment was delayed in Savannah, you have to fly out. Don't answer her calls after that. Can you do that for me?" A pause. "Leo, what is this? Just tell me his name." "This is bigger than a name, Arthur. This is about your life. Trust me." He finally agreed, his confusion a tangible thing even over the phone. I hung up and leaned back, the leather of my chair groaning in protest. Arthur's blind trust, his desperate hope that the woman he loved wasn't a monster. I knew that hope. It tasted like ash. It was the same hope my father had choked on 20 years ago. My old man wasn't a shipping tycoon. He was an architect who built beautiful things. My mother was his most beautiful and most fragile creation. Or so he thought. When he got sick, she became his dedicated nurse. His angel. I was a rookie cop back then, home on a weekend, and I saw her care. The fumbled pills, the extra dose of pain medication to help him sleep. I saw the way her eyes lit up not when he smiled, but when the estate lawyer called. I tried to warn him. He saw a grieving son, lashing out. He saw devotion where I saw cold, patient calculation. He died in his sleep a month later. The coroner called it complications. I called it murder. She inherited a fortune, a new life, and I inherited a ghost that's followed me ever since. There was no proof, no camera in the bedroom, just my word against a weeping widow's. I looked back at the monitor, at Isabella Vance, syringe in hand, her face a perfect portrait of greed. I wasn't just looking at Arthur Vance's wife. I was looking at my mother's ghost. And this time, I had proof. This wasn't just about justice for a client anymore. This was a second chance, an exorcism. And I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to give her exactly what she wanted, a life-changing windfall, right before I burned her entire world to the ground. The first step in burning down a life is to hand the arsonist a match. My match was a burner phone. I sent Isabella Vance a single, encrypted text message, an image file. It was a still from my video, grainy and dark but unmistakable. Her, the bed, the syringe. The text below it read, Jopton, the Delano Hotel Bar. 1 hour. Come alone. There was no reply. There didn't need to be. A cornered animal always explores the boundaries of its cage. I was there in 50 minutes, nursing a club soda at a small table in the back, just another ghost in the Delano's all-white lobby. The place was designed for secrets, with flowing curtains and low light that made everyone look like a beautiful liar. I watched her walk in, a vision in a cream-colored dress, her posture radiating a defiant calm that was almost believable. She scanned the room, her eyes cool and appraising, not like a victim but like a predator searching for a rival. They settled on me. I gave a slight nod. She glided to my table, the scent of expensive perfume her vanguard. "You have something of mine," she said, her voice a low murmur. "No fear, just business." I slid my tablet across the polished surface. I didn't play the video. I didn't need to. I just had the same frozen image on the screen, now in high definition. Her mask of composure didn't crack, but I saw it. A muscle in her jaw tightened. The slight tremor in the hand she placed on the table. She was calculating, processing, assessing the threat. "An impressive fake," she said, her voice perfectly even. "Is it?" I leaned forward. "My software can analyze the metadata. Timestamp, location, device ID. We can call the police right now and have their forensics team verify its authenticity. Or, we can discuss a transfer of ownership." Her eyes, dark and intelligent, locked onto mine. The lie died on her lips. The game had changed. "What do you want?" "The insurance policy on Arthur is for $10 million, I stated, not as a question. "Your freedom is worth a fraction of that, $2 million. For the drive containing the original file and any copies." I watched the gears turn. $2 million was a fortune, but it was survivable. It was a price, not a prison sentence. I was offering her an exit, a simple transactional solution to a life-altering problem. This was the moment I was waiting for. The moment she didn't call my bluff. The moment she didn't break down or profess her love for her husband. The moment she saw a price tag and decided she could afford it. My mother would have made the same choice. "How do I know you won't come back for more?" she asked, the pragmatism of a CEO closing a hostile takeover. "You don't," I said honestly. "But what other choice do you have?" She held my gaze for a long moment, then gave a sharp, almost imperceptible nod. "The money will take a few days to liquidate without raising flags." "You have 72 hours, I said, rising from the table. "I'll text you the drop-off instructions. Don't be late." "And Isabella," I added, my voice dropping, "don't try to get clever. The drive I have is a copy. The original is in a very safe place, with instructions to deliver it to the Miami PD and Arthur's lawyer should anything happen to me." I walked away without looking back, leaving her alone with the ghost on the screen. The bait was taken. She thought she was dealing with a common blackmailer. She thought she could buy her way out of the abyss. She had no idea I wasn't building her a golden bridge. I was just letting her pay for the shovel she'd used to dig her own grave. I was back in my office before the ice in my club soda had fully melted. The Miami night was a smear of neon and humidity outside my window, but inside, the only light came from the monitor. Isabella's face was still frozen on the screen. The bait was taken. Now it was time to talk to the man in the cage. My phone buzzed exactly on schedule. "Arthur. Leo. What happened?" "The hotel tracker shows she just got back home." His voice was a raw nerve. He'd been watching her movements, torturing himself with possibilities. "She met with me, Arthur." "Me? Why would she meet you? Did you tell her who you were?" Then, the real question. "Did you see him?" I took a breath. This was the delicate part. Not the whole truth, not yet. Just enough to break the foundation. "There is no him, Arthur. There never was. This isn't about passion. It's about your portfolio. Silence. A deep, profound stillness on the line, as if the connection had been severed. When he finally spoke, his voice was a ghost of what it was. Money? What are you talking about? She thinks I have evidence of a financial crime she's planning. Something that would ruin her. I told her I'd make it disappear for a price. A price, he repeated, his voice thick with disbelief. You blackmailed her? I tested her. I corrected, my tone hard and certain. I gave her an out. A chance to confess, to deny it, to call me a liar. She didn't. She asked how much. I could hear his ragged breathing. The sound of a man's world tilting on its axis. How much, Leo? $2 million. She has 72 hours to wire it to an account I control. My God. It was a whisper. He wasn't a fool. He knew what a $2 million payment to a stranger meant. It was a confession written in zeros. I need you to do something for me now, Arthur, I said, pressing the advantage. The money will come from a joint investment account. You'll get an alert. When you do, I need you to approve the transfer. No questions, no hesitation, just approve it. Approve it? Leo, that's our money. You want me to just let her give it to you? It's not for me, Arthur, I said, my voice dropping. It's the final piece of the puzzle. It's the proof we need that she would choose money over you, over your marriage, over everything. It's her signature on the contract. We need her to make the choice, freely and willingly. Let her buy the shovel, Arthur. Then I'll show you the grave she was digging. Another long silence. The static sounded like a slow burning fuse. Finally, a single, broken word came through the line. Okay. I hung up. The calm reaction. Not rage, not screaming accusations. Just the hollow, dead sound of a man accepting the unacceptable. He thought he'd hit rock bottom. He had no idea how much further he had. The next 68 hours were a masterclass in controlled silence. I didn't watch the clock. I didn't have to. I knew Isabella's mind better than her husband did. Greed isn't a complex emotion. It's a simple, predictable algorithm. She wouldn't panic or make a rash move. She would do what any ruthless CEO would. Analyze the threat, mitigate the risk, and cut the check. She was a businesswoman closing a bad deal, and I was the cost of doing business. It happened on a Tuesday morning, with 10 hours to spare on my 72-hour deadline. My phone didn't ring, it chirped. A single sterile notification from the Cayman Islands bank account I'd set up. Incoming wire transfer. $2 million USD. No name, no memo. Just a clean, cold transaction. It was the digital signature on her husband's death warrant, a final confession written in zeros. Seconds later, a second chirp. A text from Arthur, one word, no done. I didn't need to call him. What was there to say? His single word was heavier than any conversation we could have had. It was the sound of a door slamming shut on a life, the final, quiet death of the man he used to be, the man who believed in his masterpiece. I looked at the 7-figure number on my screen. $2 million. To my mother, a sum like that would have been a new beginning, the foundation for a new life built on a lie. To Isabella, it was a business expense. To me, it was evidence. I didn't touch a cent of it. I didn't need to. I took a high-resolution screenshot, a digital receipt for her soul, and forwarded it to the one man in Miami who could make it sing. A man named Marcus Thorne. Thorne wasn't a lawyer. He was a forensic accountant, a bloodhound who could sniff out a single dirty dollar in a hurricane of shell corporations. He owed me a favor from a case involving his daughter and a very poor choice in boyfriends. My instructions to him were simple: trace the origin. Create an unbreakable, court-admissible paper trail from Arthur and Isabella's joint investment account, through 2 offshore cutouts, and straight into my holding company. The money wasn't the prize, the path it took was the weapon. She thought she was buying my silence. She was actually purchasing her own indictment for conspiracy, wire fraud, and a dozen other felonies that would stick long after the attempted murder charge was filed. She was building her own cage, one transaction at a time. With the financial trap set, it was time to close the physical one. I sent Isabella a new text from the burner. Change of plans. The exchange will be face-to-face. You, me, and the drive. Tomorrow, noon. Pier 4 at the marina. Come to the yacht at the end of the pier. The Serenity, Dukas. The name was Arthur's from a happier time. The boat was his, a 90-foot monument to the life she was trying to cash in. She would feel powerful walking onto it, believing it was almost hers. She wouldn't know the vessel's name was about to become an irony so sharp it could cut glass. Her reply was instant, devoid of any fear or hesitation. I'll be there, come alone, or the deal is off. I almost smiled. The predator was giving the hunter instructions on how to walk into the trap. Coerce, asterisk, I texted back. Coerce wouldn't have it any other way. My last call was to Arthur. He was holed up in a suite at the Fontainebleau, a ghost rattling around a gilded cage. He answered on the first ring. It's time, I said, no preamble. I need you at the marina, Pier 4, at 12:15 tomorrow, not a minute sooner. Stay in your car until I text you. What's going to happen, Leo? His voice was hollow, stripped of all its former power. You're going to get your life back, Arthur, but you need to be prepared. What you're going to see, it won't be easy. I saw her transfer $2 million to a stranger to cover up a crime against me, he said, a bitter resignation in his voice. I don't think she can surprise me anymore. Don't be so sure, I warned. The woman you're about to meet isn't your wife. She never was. She's a stranger who's been sleeping in your bed. When you walk onto that boat, you're not there to confront the woman you loved. You're there to identify a suspect. Can you do that? A long pause crackled over the line. Yes, he said, his voice hard as iron. I can. I hung up and shut down my office computer. The infrared camera feed was no longer needed. The ghost story was over. Now it was time for the encore, live and in person. I grabbed my keys and a small, heavy Pelican case from my safe. Inside wasn't a hard drive full of blackmail material. It was a tablet, fully charged, queued up, and ready to play. Isabella expected a quiet, dirty transaction, an exchange of money for silence in the midday sun. She was coming to bury a secret. She had no idea she was walking into a premiere, and I had saved her a front-row seat, right next to her husband. The teak deck of the Serenity was hot enough to cook on under the noon sun. I stood by the helm, the Pelican case on the polished wood table beside me. The air smelled of salt and wealth. From my vantage point, I could see the entire pier, a concrete finger pointing into the turquoise heart of Biscayne Bay. At 12:01, her white convertible whispered into the parking lot. She emerged like a movie star stepping onto a red carpet, all sunglasses and flowing silk. She didn't look like a woman coming to pay off a blackmailer. She looked like she owned the damn boat. She strode down the pier, her heels clicking a steady, impatient rhythm. She boarded without breaking stride, her eyes hidden behind dark lenses. Let's make this quick. I have a lunch meeting. Of course, I said, my voice calm. Business first. I gestured to the case. The drive is in here. But first, a final confirmation. She crossed her arms, a flicker of annoyance on her perfect lips. I paid you. The transaction is confirmed. This is a different kind of confirmation. I opened the case, but instead of a hard drive, I pulled out the tablet. I tapped the screen and the video began to play without sound. The dark bedroom, the silent form under the sheets, her own ghostly image approaching with the syringe. I let it run for 10 seconds before stopping it on a close-up of her face, her expression a chilling blend of concentration and greed. Her mask of bored indifference didn't fall, it hardened. I was administering a vitamin shot. Arthur is terribly forgetful. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, it was almost believable. For a moment, I saw my mother's face in hers, explaining away the extra pills. A $2 million vitamin shot? I swiped the screen. The video was replaced by the screenshot of the wire transfer from the Cayman Bank. That's a lot to pay for my silence over your husband's wellness regimen. The muscle in her jaw jumped. The sunglasses stayed on. That money was for an art investment, an anonymous purchase. You're clever, I'll give you that, twisting it into this. I thought you might say that. I swiped the screen again. A clean, simple flowchart appeared, courtesy of Marcus Thorne. It showed her joint account, the shell corporations, the final destination in my holding company, an unbreakable chain. This is the path the money took, Isabella, a path designed to hide its origin. It's not the behavior of an art collector. It's the action of a criminal trying to cover her tracks. This isn't blackmail. It's a confession. You've been so focused on the attempted murder, you forgot about the motive. It's always the money. She finally took off the sunglasses. Her eyes weren't filled with fear. They were burning with pure, distilled hatred. You son of a bitch, she hissed, her voice a low, venomous thing. You set me up. You set yourself up, I corrected her quietly. I just turned on the camera. A heavy footstep sounded on the gangplank behind her. Isabella didn't turn. She assumed it was one of my associates, a threat. Whatever you think you have, my lawyers will tear it to shreds. You'll get nothing. But it wasn't my associate. Arthur stepped onto the deck, his face a gray, haggard mask. He looked like a man who had been dragged back from his own grave. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes, hollowed out and dead, were fixed on his wife. He had heard everything. He had heard her dismiss the video as a vitamin shot. He had heard her admit the $2 million payment. Most importantly, he had heard her final, damning words. You set me up. It wasn't the cry of a betrayed innocent. It was the snarl of a cornered predator. Isabella? His voice was a dry rustle of leaves. She froze. The sound of his voice was the one thing she hadn't planned for. She turned slowly, her face transforming from rage to a ghastly pale shock. The final mask disintegrated. In her eyes, I saw it all. Not fear of the police, not fear of prison, but the absolute, soul-shattering terror of being truly seen by the man she had so completely deceived. The masterpiece was finally looking at its creator with the eyes of a monster. I looked from her to Arthur, and for a split second, I wasn't on a yacht in Miami. I was back in my father's quiet, sterile bedroom, but this time, the lights were on. The weeping widow was gone, replaced by a killer caught in the act. The ghost that had haunted me for 20 years finally had a face. And we all stood there, under the brilliant, unforgiving sun, watching it burn. Arthur, darling, she began, her voice a silken plea. Thank God you're here. This man, he's insane. He's been trying to extort me with these fabricated videos. She took a step toward him, her hands outstretched, playing the victim one last time. Arthur didn't move. He didn't even flinch. He just looked at her, his eyes like two empty holes in his face. The vitamins, Isabella, he said, his voice flat and dead. Were they for my health or for the $10 million policy? Her hands dropped. The act shattered. The sweetness in her face curdled into pure venom. She had nothing left. No lies, no exits. Only the truth, raw and ugly between them. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text I was expecting. Tynes were at the pier entrance. I didn't look at it. I was watching Arthur. He had finally seen the predator behind his masterpiece's eyes. And in that moment, I saw my father, standing right beside him, nodding in grim understanding. The ghost that had walked with me for 20 years felt distant, lighter. This wasn't just justice for Arthur Vance. This was an echo of the justice my father never got. You were right, Leo, Arthur said, his gaze still locked on the woman who was now a stranger. I didn't know her at all. No, I replied softly, but now you do. From across the marina, a sound began to cut through the quiet lapping of the waves, the faint rising wail of sirens growing steadily closer. Isabella's head snapped toward the sound, her face a mask of dawning horror. I told you not to get clever, I said, picking up the tablet. The original evidence is already with the Miami PD. They were just waiting for a confession. I gestured toward the gangplank where two uniformed officers now stood, their expressions unreadable. And Arthur here is the witness to it. She looked from the police to Arthur, then to me. The fight was gone, replaced by the cold, hard reality of a cage snapping shut. The socialite, the killer, the masterpiece, it was all gone. All that was left was a criminal, standing on a stolen boat under a sun that offered nowhere to hide. The officers boarded, their movements efficient and devoid of emotion. As the cold steel of the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Isabella finally looked small. Arthur watched it all, not with rage or sorrow, but with the hollowed-out calm of a man who had survived the end of his world. And I stood there, the exorcism complete, finally free of the ghost I'd brought with me, so I have all the proof on camera. My question to you is, what would you do in my exact situation? Go straight to the police, or is there a better way to get justice?